The stories I'm about to tell you are not for the faint of heart, but if you're brave enough to listen, you might just survive the dark web. Before we begin, if you're watching on your TV, please pull out your phone and please like this video. I never do AI voiceovers. I'm just a regular guy with a deep voice who likes horror. If you don't do this, you probably won't see any of my videos again. So hit the sub bell if you like these types of videos. I ordered myself on the dark web. I know you're frowning. The title is weird. I know. But if you could just give me a moment, I'll explain. I'll have to be fast though. I don't know how close they are. Essentially, I ordered myself on the dark web. I'm a drug user. I'll admit it. Weed is my usual go-to, but I buy that off of my friend. If, however, I want to get something a little heavier, like acid or coke, I just order it off the dark web. It's surprisingly simple. A few clicks, some Bitcoin transfers, and then boom, I have it in my P.O. box. But I'm also a curious guy. The dark web has always intrigued me. Up until a few days ago, I had only been on there to buy drugs off sites some of my friends gave to me. But late one night, I was sober and at home, which was a rare thing for me. So, since I was bored, I decided to boot up my Tor browser and try and see what sort of fucked up shit I could find on the dark web. If you've ever been on the dark web, you'll know that you can't just search up red rooms or hitman for hire and get results. No, you have to find links to these websites first. So, I hopped back onto Google again to try and find some links to a messed up website. I know it's weird that I was actively searching for the worst, but as soon as I got on the dark web that night, I had a sense of morbid curiosity overcoming me. Anyway, I spent a little while trying to find some links. Anything that I found, though, was either too tame for me or the links didn't work. At this point, I was about ready to give up, and I wish I had. But in one final attempt, I clicked on Reddit, hopping onto r/deepweb. I didn't think I would find anything, so I just scrolled through hot for about half an hour before sorting by new. Then I found it. One simple text post titled, Slayer's Assassination and Life-Ruining Surfaces. In the text box in the post was what seemed to be a random assortment of numbers and letters. ZYYTCAUBKQ2Y3, for those of you curious. It took my tired brain a second to figure out what it was, but I realized pretty quickly it was a link, presumably to a hitman website. So, I decided to paste the link into my dark web browser, and what do you know? It worked. But before I decided to go any further, I figured I should go back to OP's profile to see if they have posted any other dark web links. However, when I went back to the post in question, OP's profile was deleted. Weird. Anyway, I reopened my dark web tab and hopped onto the site. Up along the top of the website was its name, Slayer's Assassination and Life-Ruining Services, and next to it, what looked to be a skull inside of a crosshair. I chuckled when I saw that. The site must be fake. Upon scrolling down, however, I was not disappointed. There was a paragraph of white text on a black background, and a small box to the right of the text that just said, Place an order. The text was the main part, though, as it took up most of the page. It read, Slayer's Assassinations and Life-Ruining Services offers everything from acid attack, crippling blinding, castration, torture, beatings, and good old death. We have the lowest prices out of any other company running similar services, and we are worldwide. We have a dedicated and experienced group of staff based all around the world. So if you need someone to be assassinated, or maybe you just want them scarred for life, don't hesitate to contact us. Again, I laughed. This had to be satire, right? Hell, I was even tempted to order it on someone just to see what would happen. Ironically, I actually have a half-decent job, so I can afford to. Better not to risk it, though, I thought to myself. I was about to close my computer and call it for a night when I heard a knock at my door. I live alone, so it was unusual to get visitors, especially so late at night. But when I opened my door, it was just my good buddy Mark, who also happened to be my plug. As I opened the door, he didn't hesitate to let himself in and shove a big baggie full of pot in my face. This dude is the best shit I've had in a minute. We gotta try some. I couldn't say no. Cut to a couple hours later. It's early morning and Mark and I are chilling on my couch, both blazed as fuck. He suddenly decides to get up, and I assume he's going to get some leftover pizza, but he walks over to my desk and computer. Slayer's assassinations. Are you gonna kill someone or something? He mutters. What? I reply. Your computer, dude. It's got some hacker shit on it. It's the dark web, man. Don't fuck with it. At this point, I'm still on my couch, half asleep and not paying full attention. However, I sat up pretty fast when he said the words, "Hey man, let's order a hitman on you." I hopped up and walked over to my PC. Part of my brain was screaming no. What the fuck are you doing? But the majority of my brain, which was also the high part, was thinking about how funny it would be to order a hitman on myself. So I agreed. I made him get out of my chair though, because I didn't want him seeing what my credit card numbers were as I transferred some Bitcoin. At the end, after I wrote down all my personal details, like my address, age, and even a photo, I had to select what I wanted to happen to me. I just selected plain old assassination, as it was actually cheaper than some of the other things. I could have paid an extra couple grand to be beaten before my death, but even my high brain didn't want to splash the cash too much on my own death. God, this is ridiculous. Anyway, I placed the order and then replied to the confirmation email, and boom, it was done. A couple of clicks and I had ordered myself on the dark web. Mark and I laughed about it for a while, but then he left about an hour later and I fell asleep not too long after. I woke up around 9 a.m., which meant I got at least 6 hours of sleep, even if I felt like I got 3. I got up and out of bed, threw on some track pants and a cotton shirt. Yes, I sleep naked, and brewed myself a coffee before sitting down to play some games and just enjoy my Sunday. You can imagine how shocked I was when I saw that I had ordered my death the previous night. Even though I thought the site was bullshit, I still felt a pit open up in my stomach. Even when I'm high, I usually can make sensible decisions. I chuckled, not like I could remember it anyway, but I guess Mark's new shit was really good. I would assume a normal human being would do something else, but I was still kind of out of it from the night before, so I just carried on with my day. I was a little more paranoid, sure, but as I said, I just assumed it was bullshit. I even laughed at the email I got from the website saying that their hitman has been dispatched and was on its way. It was like ordering a package off Amazon. I was tempted to email back and ask for same-day delivery, but I didn't need to ask because that's exactly what I got. I didn't see it arrive, but around the time I started to cook myself a shitty dinner, I noticed a blacked-out sedan parked on the other side of the road from my house. I didn't live in a rural area, but there is a lot of trees and bushes between each of the houses on my street, so I'd be surprised if any other house saw the car except for mine. At this point, I was freaking out. What if the site was real? Even though I'm a big guy, I was freaking out. I don't own any weapons, aside from a slightly larger than average kitchen knife. Fuck it, I'm confronting it, I decided. I put on a hoodie and slid the knife into my front pocket before waltzing on out of my house and walking right up to the driver's side window of the vehicle. Even I was astonished at my own courage. Knocking on the window, nothing happened. It was rather anticlimactic. I was fully prepared to have a fight for my life, all because I did something really dumb while I was baked. But, like I said, nothing happened. I even put my head right up to the window, as if there was a reflection to try and get a better look to see what's inside. I could barely see what was inside of the car, but all I could make out were 2 empty seats. No one was even inside. I had got all hyped up for nothing. I decided to wait out by the car for a bit, but after half an hour or so, I was hungry and had to go back inside to take my dinner out of the oven, and looking back out the window and the car being gone, I didn't even hear it go. Yes, I'm eating dinner with all of my curtains closed and doors locked, I muttered to myself. I had just started to calm down when the power shut off. It was sunny outside, and coupled with the car, I now knew this was the real deal. I had signed my own death warrant. I ran into my upstairs bedroom and locked the door, and then hid under the bed. I couldn't call the cops. What would I say? Oh yes, hello sir. Turns out while super high, I paid $5,000 for some anonymous hitman to kill me, and now he's arrived. Send an officer ASAP, please and thank you. So, I just stayed hiding under my bed, and I still am now. I've been here for an hour now writing this. Think of this as my last journal entry. I know I'm screwed. Just a minute ago, I heard my back door slowly creak open. This piece of writing may seem humorous to you, the reader, but in reality, as you read this, I'm under my bed praying to a God that lost all faith in me years ago to spare me, to let me go. But I know that won't happen. My bedroom door just opened, and I can see a big pair of black boots. I searched my parents' names on the dark web. The videos I found were horrifying. When my friend first introduced me to the dark web, I was amazed at how such an unknown thing could house some of the most illegal things on earth. Up until today, I had only used it for learning how to code and commit small crimes. But after the horrifying videos I just found, I don't think I'll ever use the dark web again. I first met my best friend Alex a little bit after I got into high school. My parents had moved us to a new town and I had no friends. It was lonely at first, but I got used to it. We moved because they were paranoid after many murders occurred in our town. I thought this was weird, moving across the country over that, but I let it go. The reason Alex and I became friends so quickly was because we both had a shared interest in the internet and everything it had to offer. I was a gaming addict and a tier 3 Pokemon subscriber, while he was much more of a coder and developer. 2 years later, we were still best friends, but now we were much older and smarter. Alex had discovered the dark web, and he was obsessed with it. He pretty much spent every hour of the day on it, searching through anything you could imagine. There was nothing wrong with this, but one search he made was the biggest mistake of his entire life. I remember waking up to dozens of text messages from him one morning. This wasn't normal. Alex wasn't a very social person, and it was very hard to get words out of him. I opened my phone to see what he had messaged me. Dude, Jack, you have to come over right now. This is important. Jack, please wake up. This is urgent. Where are you? These were only some of the messages, but the rest were very similar, with them all being urgent and that I needed to go to his house immediately. My parents were both at work still, so I went over to Alex's house. When I arrived, there were 4 cop cars parked in front of his house, and there were dozens of people and news vans standing out front. I made my way through the crowd, and Alex's mother told the police to let me inside. I could see tears rolling down her cheeks as she opened the door. "What's going on, Mrs. Gonzalez?" I asked. "Alex is missing," she said as she started crying. My heart sank. How could this happen? He had just texted me earlier that morning. That was when it hit me. What if he was trying to warn me? What if his text messages were related to his disappearance? Still in shock, I walked up to one of the detectives in the kitchen. "Is Alex going to be okay?" I asked. "Of course he is. He's going to be just fine. We're going to find him very soon. One of the detectives responded. Something about that response was off. It was like I knew he was wrong. Deep down, I had this slight feeling that I wasn't going to see him ever again. I remembered the text messages, however, and pulled out my phone to show it to the detective. He texted me this morning. What if this has something to do with him going missing? I said swiftly. As he began reading them, his expression quickly changed. It was like it got worse. He told me they needed to keep my phone for now to investigate the text messages and said they would give it back to me later. I stayed around the house for a while, not just because I missed Alex, but because I wanted to comfort his parents. They cared about me a lot, and it hurt to see them like that. His mother couldn't stop crying. Eventually, however, I went into Alex's room to see if I could find anything that might give a clue about why he went missing. I searched through everything, but I found nothing. And then I noticed something. Alex's computer was on, but his monitor was turned off. I looked for the button to turn it on and hit it. As the screen lit up, my heart sank. He was on the dark web. Obviously, this was normal, but for some reason, he had dozens of different tabs opened. I knew this part wasn't normal, so I closed the door and locked it and began going through them. At first, it was all pretty usual for him, but then things started to get weird. He had a tab open that was an article about a murder that happened several years ago. The article said that it was a woman who was found dead in her apartment. Her body was mutilated, cut up, and covered in acid. I nearly threw up reading it and seeing the horrifying pictures of the crime scene. Not wanting to see any of it anymore, I switched the tab just to reveal another article about another murder. Confused, I quickly went through the rest of the tabs he had open, and they were all the same thing. They were all about some type of murder or crime. The one that stuck out to me the most, however, was one about a murder that happened 2 years ago. At first, it seemed pretty normal, but as I read further, I realized what it was. It was about the murder of our neighbor that prompted us to move away. Confusion quickly swept over me. How did Alex know about this? I never told him about it, because to me, it wasn't that important. I figured it must have just been a strange coincidence. But then I saw the last search he had made on his computer. It was my last name. Horrified and confused, I quickly stumbled out of his room and back to the living room. Is everything all right? Alex's mother said, sniffing away her tears. Yeah, I just need to go home for dinner, I responded. On the way home, so many questions and thoughts filled my mind. Why was he searching up my last name? Did he think that I had something to do with this? That must have been why he was texting me so frantically that morning. If only I could just explain to him that I didn't do anything wrong. But I couldn't. He was still missing, and I had to find out why. When I got home, I raced to my room and slammed the bedroom door shut and got on my computer. I loaded up my Tor browser and turned my VPN on. I knew what I had to do. I began typing in the letters of my last name, becoming more nervous after every letter. When I finally hit enter, nothing happened. It was just a blank screen. Confused, I refreshed the page, but once again, there was nothing. But why did Alex search this if there was nothing? I thought to myself, there must be something out there. I was getting ready to close the tab, thinking I had ran into a dead end, when suddenly the page started to load. It took several minutes, but finally it loaded to reveal hundreds of videos. Immediately, I knew what they were. They were murders, but why did they show up when you searched my last name? I considered just stopping right there and turning back, knowing the horrifying things I would see if I continued on. But I couldn't. I knew this had to be why Alex went missing, so I clicked on the first video. As it started playing, I saw what looked like a woman strapped to a chair in some sort of basement or something. I quickly recognized who it was. It was our neighbor from 2 years ago. I could tell because she had the same heart-shaped tattoo on her neck. She sat there for a minute, struggling, panicking, and screaming for someone to help. However, suddenly, two figures walked into frame. At first, I couldn't tell who they were, but as they turned around to face the camera, my heart sank. It was my parents. My father was holding a knife, while my mother was holding a small scalpel. They paused for a moment before they started what was the most horrifying 5 minutes of my entire life. I watched as they cut her into pieces and listened as she begged for mercy, screaming the whole time. Blood filled the room as she took her last breath. When the video ended, it quickly went to another, revealing the exact same room and chair I had seen before. I was traumatized by what I had already seen, and I knew I couldn't watch any more of it. My parents were murderers, and I now knew the real reason we moved away 2 years ago. I knew there was something off about that, but I just never could have imagined that this was the horrifying secret that they had been hiding from me. This whole time, I thought Alex was trying to accuse me of being responsible for these murders, but I was so wrong. He was trying to warn me. I scanned through more of the videos, each in the exact same room. I was just about finished, ready to go to the police so that I could tell them about what I had just seen when I noticed something. There was a new video uploaded today on the website. I quickly clicked on it and pressed play to reveal what looked like a man this time, strapped to the chair. He had a sack over his face, and I couldn't tell who it was. Once again, however, I saw my parents walk into the frame. My father walked up to the man and pulled the sack off his head. At first, I couldn't tell who it was, but then I realized who I was looking at. It was Alex. There is a place much worse than the dark web. The internet is an amazing place. There are endless opportunities, things to see, to read, friends to make, and so much more. But there are bad places too. We all know that, but no one knows the true extent of the terror, the truth. I have to post this here because I don't have long, but I'll tell my story in full. You see, I'm one of those computer kids, fascinated by technology. I could program the universe if you gave me enough money. I get straight A's at school, and my computer science teacher loves me. Safe to say, I'm pretty skilled when it comes to the internet. My knowledge of tech and the internet has led me to a certain fascination with the deep web and dark web. I managed to burrow my way in there a few years back, and I've been a habitual surfer ever since. Despite common tales of snuff and all the disturbing things you hear about, I have not continually seen much extreme stuff on the dark web. Instead, it seems to be a conglomeration of weirdos who want people to shit on them, and occasionally, the odd creep. But overall, the dark web is a small part of the net, with a bunch of empty websites and links floating around in cyberspace. That is, unless you know where to look. I have, out of morbid curiosity, visited places that I perhaps shouldn't have. Once, I was in a chat room, bored out of my mind, and asked a bunch of other nameless, faceless, dark web surfers if they knew of any of the really fucked up places. The responses were disturbing. Links to websites with things I had never heard of. Nuclear warheads for sale, up to 100 million. Live snuff films, hitman for hire, etc. One of the users even linked me to something called Daisy's Destruction, the title of which was enough to put me off. You see, for desensitized folk, and I too thought myself desensitized, this may not sound like it's overly terrible, but to actually see those things, I can imagine it destroying people. And if you don't have the technological capability of protecting yourself and your information from the bad people, as they often term themselves, you could end up in serious trouble. Not to mention, the feds constantly try to catch people snooping about. It's safe to say the dark web can be a terrible place, a collection of the world's most evil people. And I thought I'd seen it all. But man, I was wrong. There is another kind of terror that few people talk openly about. It's the purest form of fear. And no, it's not the fear of the unknown. It's the one thing all organisms continually try to avoid. It's the fear of it that drives evolution itself. The end of life. The end of everything. It's the fear that we're obsessed with. Apocalypse theories, the big freeze, alien invasions, nuclear war hypothesis, so much more. It's the fear of not existing that we and all other life forms strive to escape. And it's the end that I found. Let's consider the iceberg theory. Roughly 4% of the internet is at the safe zone. Below that is the deep web, which makes up about 90%. Then, at the very bottom of the iceberg is the dark web. But what I found, by comparison, is like the Challenger Deep, the abyssal zone, far beyond the safe and warm light of the internet. It started 2 days ago. I was at the bottom of the iceberg again when I came across a small link. There was nothing special about it other than the fact that it was colored yellow. I clicked it. Suddenly, my computer screen lit up with some kind of 3D simulation, a 360 view, and it looked like the Matrix digital rain. Computer code in a language even I had never seen was pouring, and as it pooled at the bottom of the simulation, it formed a sentence. Access denied. You do not have permission to access the region. Well, I wasn't having that. I grinned wickedly. Game on. I searched around the simulation for anything at all, but the digital rain had seeped away. Suddenly, though, at one end of the simulation, a gap opened. At this point, I was convinced this was some kind of VR video game. I was too busy figuring out if I could get access to wonder whether or not I should. The gap gradually grew wider, letting in blue light from the surrounding area, and I began to see links to documents. They were nearly all named with random strings of letters and symbols, all except one, the archive. I clicked on it. It opened a document titled Earth 4.5 GA 2040 AD, and my interest was immediately captured. I scrolled through the document, which seemed to be a generically basic timeline of the history of the Earth, but with some scientific declarations that I was not familiar with. I realized that it would take me an incredibly long amount of time to scroll through 4 billion years of history, so I searched around for anything else. The pages with the timeline on were surrounded by that same language, one that I didn't know. Aha, in the top right, I noticed what looked vaguely like a search bar. So I clicked on that and typed in 2002, the year of my birth. The pages seemed to shoot upward at Mach 50 before halting on one page, where 2002 was one of the years listed. I was oddly shocked to see that it listed the major events of that year. North Korea admits the development of nuclear weapons in defiance of the treaty. NASA's 2001 Mars Odyssey space probe begins to map the surface of Mars using its thermal emission imaging system, and every other major event that went down in 2002. After scrolling through the following years, they too had all major events listed. What I saw next was unnerving. The years that hadn't happened yet were listed, as were their events. 2021, second wave of disease kills 6 million. My heart was racing. I was eager to read on. 2025, first contact with extraterrestrial life made. 2028, explosion in advanced technology leads to the terraforming of Mars. Climate change solutions proposed to UN with success. 2035, first humans sent to Mars. Even population distribution. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Was this just some made-up BS, or was it real? I managed to find it easily enough. But was that yellow link temporary? What was something like this doing on the dark web? After several hours of reading about amazing future achievements of humanity, The timeline ended completely at 2040. The end. What? At this point, I relaxed. This surely wasn't real. No way. It was just one of the weirder things on the internet. But as I was about to click off and return to the safe, normal surface web, a message appeared. My screen turned a deep navy blue, and a long string of white words lay before me in a chat room. Hello, Jack, at 2334 Charles Avenue. We are the Veil, Section 20, MW, Earth. We noticed that you found the archive, and props to you. It isn't normally that easy. In fact, you're the second human being to have done so. The first human did it all the way back in February 2014. Both times, your access was made possible because of the Sunflower link, which happens every so often. It seems there has been a breach in the code, a result of fairly poor human technology. We're working to fix that. Unfortunately for you, you have accessed our database and reviewed the archive, which you do not have permission to do. Our team are conferring at this moment to decide the best course of action. We are considering your nature. It is okay to make mistakes because you're human. We are not. The moment I had finished reading this, the message vanished and my computer blacked out. It was frozen still. They knew my name, which isn't possible. I never, ever use my real name on the internet. They knew my address, even though I have multiple concrete VPN servers directing my location elsewhere. What the hell? We are not. Slowly, I stood up out of my desk chair, walked over to my bed, and laid down. I switched on my lamp. I felt more comfortable in the light. It's been 2 days. I haven't touched my computer, nor have I heard from the Veil, but I know they feigned their consideration. I've seen what I shouldn't have. I knew the end is coming. I need to escape now. But I didn't just believe them because they knew my name and address. I believed them because they said I was the second human to have discovered them. Using my phone, I scoured the web for the Veil in Section 20, MW Earth, looking for said other human, but nothing came up. But then I tried something else. I searched redacted, and the result was a name and some kind of code. Zahari Ahmad Shah, MH370. That was all. I know what I have to do. I'm sorry.